The traditional wedding is one of the events that you have to go through when you start your journey towards getting married. And this goes for Christians and even those who are not Christians, basically because we still appreciate the traditional African culture. All right, for anyone who might be wondering what a traditional wedding is, it's basically an event where the bride's family and the groom's family come together, and especially for the groom to deliver dowry, and also for the two families to bond and have just a good time together. It's more like a wedding, but it's done in the traditional way. So even for Christians, this is one of the things that you might have to go through. All right, so in this video I'm sharing 10 tips on how you can make your planning process easier. All right, and basically how to go about it as a Christian couple. So the first one is, you are not married yet. When you do the traditional wedding as a Christian couple, you are not yet married. It's one of the events where you are able to honor parents and let your families get to know each other. But for Christians, that is not your wedding day yet. You still have to go through the wedding and have your marriage blessed in the altar, where you fellowship, where you are growing spiritually. You have your spiritual father bless your marriage, and then now you can be considered husband and wife. For people who are not going to go through the church process and all, this could be it for them. After they are married in the traditional way, then the customary, you're done, you're married, and then they can now live together after that. But for couples, you're not yet married yet until you are declared husband and wife in church. All right, or wherever you will be married the church way. So the second one is understand culture. Because this is a traditional wedding, you need to understand culture. And this is not just for the wedding. This goes to the events towards this traditional wedding. Because I believe most cultures, the traditional wedding is where dowry is delivered. It's not really the negotiations, right? Mostly it's where the groom brings what he was asked to bring, and it's just, you know, ticking, this was brought, this has not been brought, and all that, you know, and maybe negotiating and saying, I know you told us to bring this, but we've not been able to bring, you know, right? So there are events that come before that. So it's good to understand, because how you present yourself to your in-laws the first time and in all these events towards your wedding will kind of prepare a foundation for how you and your partner, the relationship you have with your two families, with the extended families. So it's good to understand culture, get to know what is expected of me as a groom, what is expected of me as a bride. And this goes beyond just the traditional culture, even to family cultures, because beyond the tribal things that we do, every family has a culture. There is a hybrid on the tribal thing that every family does. So be on the lookout, get to understand. For the bride, let your man know what is expected of you when you visit their home. And for the groom, understand the process and the procedures, because you are creating a foundation for your two families. You don't want to have a situation where before you even become part of the family, people already have a negative attitude about you because of how you handled yourself during this process of getting to know one another, and especially during the traditional wedding and the events that come with it. All right. The third one is, don't compromise your beliefs and your faith. As a believer, there's a level and standard that you should not go beyond. There's a boundary you shouldn't cross, because as we know, the traditional culture, there was a spiritual aspect to it. The most cultures, not all, but there's a lot of bloodshed and enchantments being made, and having specific people doing the slaughtering of the animals, having specific number of animals, and those ones have kind of a specific impact, you know. So just know, you know, those items you might be asked even for alcohol, and because there's kind of a list of items that you're expected to bring, and every tribe has them, and there are things that cross the line, like now when you get to shedding of blood, and you get to certain enchantments made by certain people. So be careful not to cross boundaries, and when you realize that people want to cross those boundaries, there are demands to cross some boundaries that for you are connecting you to another spiritual world, not what you believe in. It's good to be clear on that and let your family know that there are things you don't want to do. All right, because you don't want to start a family with already some shaky spiritual base or foundation. Okay, the fourth one is proper planning. Now this goes from, this is like the main thing for a couple. You need to plan and plan well. This event is for you and your families, but at the bottom line, the two of you have to do proper planning, because how you do this thing will determine how the event goes. This goes from dowry. For the young man, don't go with, you know, like whatever you are asked for, just try to deliver, because if you don't deliver, that negotiation part where now elders sit down and there's the dowry being given and people are ticking, this has been brought, this, and you don't want people having wrangles at that point, and people walking out and people getting agitated because you did not plan yourself well. All right, be clear and also plan well for the dowry, plan well for the event, have a program. Have a proper program. The event will start at this time. This is what will happen at this time. And of course, consulting with your families, come up with a program, give the program to the MC, so that people don't come very late, or people come too early, or people come and they feel like it's a waste of time, nothing is going on, you know. Have a proper program. Give the program to the MC in good time. Have a proper plan with your bridesmaids, you know, if you will be having them, bridesmaids and groomsmen, because nowadays traditional weddings have kind of a replica of what happens during, you know, the church wedding. So if you're having bridesmaids, do proper planning. Have their clothes done in good time. I have done a video on bridesmaids. Yes, it was focused on the wedding, but since traditional weddings nowadays have the same kind of replica, make sure to have a look at it. It will help you when you're planning for these maids and the groomsmen. But basically, plan well for the food. All right, and that takes me to the fifth point, and that is budget. Have a budget and stick to it. The reason why you should budget is because for a traditional wedding, just like any other event, there are financial implications. All right, so if you have been in any traditional wedding, you know priority is food. You know, you can have a traditional wedding that doesn't have a cake, that doesn't have decor, doesn't have tents, but food is priority. I've not seen any traditional wedding that doesn't have food. So you need to have a budget and put priorities on the budget and the limits you can go and the extents you can go to with this budget, and stick to it. So yes, you're budgeting for the dowry, but you also budget for the food, and budget for transport, budget for the things that are a must do for that event. If you'll be having makeup, a makeup artist, you know, all those things that need to be planned for. And talking of a budget, I have done a wedding planner, stroke a budget tracker, which you can also use for your traditional wedding, because for the event part, most of the things that you might find in a traditional wedding, you'll find in your church wedding. So you can use the same budget tracker for your traditional wedding, especially the event part. And for the personal things, you can use still, you can customize it to fit your traditional wedding. So if you need a wedding plan, a planner stroke a budget tracker for your wedding as well as for the traditional wedding, look at the comments, look at the description. I will be putting a link on how you can get one at a very cheap price. If you know me, so far I'm very keen on ensuring that we maximize and use as little money as possible for events. So the tracker is very cheap. If you're watching me, by the way, you can afford it. It goes even way less than your dates, whatever you use on your dates, the amount of money. So it's very cheap. Make sure to get it. It will help you for the traditional wedding planning as well as your wedding and your honeymoon. Now we go to the 6th point, and the 6th point goes to kind of the family now a bit. So don't overcommit. This is to the groom's side. So for the groom as well as the family that is involved in the negotiation of the dowry, don't overcommit. As people say, we are going to negotiate for dowry, but sometimes when people get there, people try to portray a picture that they really are not. You say you probably give $1 million because that is what you are asked for, but in the real sense, you're still earning 30,000 Kenya shillings. And it's not like you have an asset that you can sell and give the 1 million. So just be real. Just like what I really always recommend is be realistic. Don't pretend. So don't overcommit, because if you have overcommitted, when you come for this traditional wedding, there will be issues. You will have a fight because you will not be able to deliver what you are told to deliver. On the other hand, even as you negotiate to bring the dowry to your level, you can negotiate on timelines. You can commit to give a certain amount that you are able to deliver before the wedding. Then after the wedding, you commit to go back and continue delivering dowry. For most cultures, dowry should, it's implied that dowry should never be finished. That way, both families can keep coming together and having some kind of reunion. Yeah, so negotiate either on bringing it down to your level or the timelines. So you give something little now, and then after the wedding you are able to continue paying. The next point still goes to the family, but now on the bride side. But before that, if you have not yet subscribed to this channel and you've gotten to this point, please subscribe. It helps grow this channel and helps us reach more people. And if you've loving the content so far, give us a thumbs up. It also helps the video to be recommended to more people. All right, now going to the bride's family. Don't exploit the young man, and his family. I have seen people where, I was actually, now this reminds me, I was actually seeing a post going around where a groom walked out because of the demands he was given for the bride, and he just said this is too much. He excused himself, pretended to go to the washroom, and he never showed up again. So basically what I'm saying is, don't exploit the young man. Don't start demanding, or you be paid all the flasks, this and the cups and the glasses this girl broke, or all the school fees that was paid. I've had people that say, if the girl has done her first degree, there's a demand on that level of education. If she has done her master's, now the dowry goes higher. If she has done a PhD, my goodness, you cannot afford that. You cannot afford that amount of dowry. It shouldn't be like that, because if you exploit the young man, trust me, they will go and start in debt. Because if the young man is the one paying the dowry, then it means if he gives everything, your daughter will go and suffer. Because they will go and start on a negative, because maybe the young man borrowed and all that. So don't exploit the young man. Just go for the basics, all right? Just go for the basics and don't stress him. Make it as easy as possible. And this goes to even the people who come and start demanding things on the wedding day. You went through the traditional wedding, dowry was done, everything was done. Yet on the wedding day, you hear cousins, aunties, uncles who are making demands on the wedding day. Please don't make this a stressful situation for the groom and the bride. All right? Don't exploit. That's the bottom line. The next point is for the couple, be on the same page. The traditional wedding has a lot that goes around it, and every tribe, every family has its own kind of demands. You will find maybe for some families, the gate is closed and then you have to come singing, and then you are asked for the key, and then you sing, and then you're asked for milk. I've seen that. There are also others where you have to come hooting from the main road, coming to the village, hooting to the home, hooting vehicles. There are those ones who will demand that if you have crates of sodas, they have to come swinging the crates of sodas. You know, there are demands. There are demands. You find other families where the bride will be put in a line with other ladies, and they are covered, you know, in a way that you cannot recognize them. And then the bride has, the groom has to come and choose his bride from that. If he makes a mistake, all these things, by the way, if you make a mistake, you don't do as per demand, then you have to pay a fine. So for the lady, you can try to just give your man a heads up on what is expected. Let them know what is expected, because especially if it is cross-cultural, you might not know what needs to be done, right? So be on the same page. Be on the same page on the program. Be on the same page on the dowry. Has everything been given and collected and paid for? You know, be on the same page. At the end of the day, yes, I know dowry is more on the young man's side, but at the end of the day, if he gets it wrong, young lady, you will be left there just as stranded as your man is. So this is a unity thing. You work together. As much as he is the one who is going to sort everything, you be on the same page, because at the end of the day, if he doesn't deliver, you'll also be left there stranded, just like your man is stranded. The other thing is pray. Pray. As believers, we cannot do anything without committing it to the Lord. Commit this event to the Lord. Pray for favor, and not just the traditional wedding, even the other events that come towards this event. Pray that God brings the right people your way. Pray that God helps that you find favor with the people he brings your way. Because the people that sit in that meeting, sometimes some cultures don't allow the groom and the bride to be in the negotiation meetings, like our culture doesn't. So you need to pray that the people who go to that meeting will not make the process stressful, will not be obstacles to the process of you getting married. So you can pray for the people, pray for provision, pray that God intervenes. One thing I look at and I find interesting, my husband had prayed that he wouldn't be sold a bride, because he had heard people say they are going to buy a bride when he was way younger, and he told God, I don't want to be sold a bride. And guess what? When I was we went through this, and that's why maybe we didn't have a traditional wedding, there was no dowry. my dad did not demand for a dowry. So what my husband's family did is just to honor my parents, but there was no a list of items they're supposed to bring, amount of money they're supposed to bring. And maybe it could be a coincidence, but at some point when he told me, because he told me later after all these events were past and all, he told me that prayer that he had prayed. I think maybe the prayer had some impact, right? But I know my dad all along. I knew my dad wouldn't be big on the dowry, but I didn't expect him not to demand anything, you know. Anyway, pray. I've given that story to just say pray. I'm not saying you go and start saying, oh, I don't want to pay dowry. No, I don't think honoring parents is wrong. I think it's good, and it still helps us build on our traditional African culture. Anyway, I hope you've gotten my point. Just commit everything to God in prayer for protection, because we've had stories of things that happen when people are going for rations and also praying for everything. Pray for the event. All right. The last thing is enjoy your traditional wedding. Try to enjoy it, because you will not be able to repeat such an event. You will not be able to you will not be able to repeat a traditional wedding. So try to enjoy that day. Have fun. There might be hitches, there might be challenges. Every event has such. So try not to focus on the negative, focus on the positive, and enjoy the day. Because you may never have another one like, basically you'll never have another one like it, right? Even if you one day try to redo it, and maybe when you're taking a part of the dowry, you try to redo kind of a traditional wedding, it's never the same, right? Never the same. So enjoy this day, because it is one in a lifetime. Thank you for watching to the end. Make sure to look at the description for the things I've recommended, the videos I've recommended, and I hope to see you in the next video of this amazing series, Steps to Your Wedding Day.